evening podcast kena ke episode kebasar wah so komentas ni ba lo-fi evening lebih compare kena maybe compare dan we just ini contoh travel introduce ini cover on ba tamas ni dengan kerensan kata empowerment fest 2023 the visa people on Instagram cuma kamu nilapo ki notifications on to in I hope that you guys have enjoyed one only the games the berikutnya kita podcast ini publish sebelum kita live ini episode pasal dan tasmi dan ke masuk ke tasmi lo-fi evenings done in collaboration but SRCDA P5 yang penting dong SRCDA teman-teman ayo pertama ini kita to be frank I'm not something that take tentang knowledge issue. But anyway guys, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you for liking and publishing. Come down more and take it off if it wasn't for you guys, we'll never be this far. And so I just want to say something also, this is the second season of the Lo-Fi Evening Podcast. I come down, baru kita bahas tentang publishing, if what tip spontaneity, flap the description down below. Then mentang you don't make Samanda Nora Pyngrope. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself a bit so that the viewers will know who you are actually?
So thank you so much for that introduction, the fourth introduction.
Fourth episode.
Fourth introduction.
Yes.
So my name is Samanda Nora Pyngrope. I come from the background of art and design. So professionally, I am an industrial designer. I've worked in the field of UI UX design, and right now I've started my own design agency that's based here in Shillong. So what we do is we work with local businesses and we provide a set of design services. So that's largely what I like to do, and we're also expanding into brand strategy and other services that we can provide for many other local businesses. So apart from that, I explore art in a visual sense. So I really delve into it more from it started as a hobby, but now I think it's become more of a lens to which I can also share different perspectives and stories with the community that we have here in Shillong, in Meghalaya and beyond. So yeah, that's a little bit.
Wow, okay. Huge amount on resume that's this long. Anyway. But yeah, thank you for being here and thank you for spending the time. It's very, very important. So I just want to ask, is like, how did you, in a very, how to start the conversation, how it says that, how did you reach to a point where you love art, right? Because for me personally, I've always liked drawing, but I never took it seriously. Most of the time I was like, okay, I'll draw a stick figure and that's it. That's the thing I can do, okay? So don't insult me guys. So anyway, so can you tell me how did you reach to a point where, art is your thing, kind of thing? How did you find this talent?
So I think a lot of it, I think it happens with everyone, you sort of figure out something that in your childhood or something that really piqued your interest at a very, very young age. So if you ask people who have known me from, the wee little years, I've always been that type of person who never sits still with an idea. So whether it's cardboard, whether it's paper, whether it's drawing, it's always been that outlet for me to express. It's always been that thing that I really, really love to do, regardless of whether someone likes it or not, So it's always been a passion of mine, and I'm so fortunate today that I get to do it as my profession as well. So it's really, really nice to be able to also share it also with people. So I think it started, for many of us, our talents started at a very young age. So I think that's where it all began.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to really look deep down to reach this point. Can I ask you, which moment in your time, for me personally, when I started, collaborating away, and I don't know if it's a profession right now, but it took a certain kind of event, a certain kind of spark, right? So where did that spark came from, according to you, the spark of being an artist?
I think, so our household, we normally treasure a lot of old heirlooms. There's a painting by a relative of mine we don't have a picture of him. We have a picture of a landscape painting that he had made of elephant calls. So his signature is there, his name is there, but there's no face to that piece of art, But it really struck a chord with me, and it really impacted me, because I remember here is this unknown face, but he's touched this piece of work, he's made this. So I think that really one of the pieces at home that really is there even today. We have it hung in our drawing room. So I think pieces like that you kind of experience and you kind of are face to face with, I think that really talks about the power of art to really impact someone and to really kind of take, change your perspective and really reach that. So yeah, I think that's.
Yeah. Changing your perspective, because if you really, I really feel that this, sometimes art you have to look from a different angle, right? Because if you look at now, so to say, photography, right? Photography is such a huge thing now, and anyone can learn photography. But, like, how do you find that angle, of saying that I'm gonna paint from this angle, that perspective? Because that has to be there, right? So, can you explain a bit about, like, how's your train of thought before you apply it to a canvas, or when you apply it to your designs, if you don't mind me asking?
So I think a lot of it is also with art, right? There's not actually a right or wrong. I feel when you start out, there's a lot more possibility. I feel like down the line, when you take it up as a profession, okay, you're more conscious of the critics, you're more conscious of, am I doing it this way, that way, and then you also take into consideration all other artists that are doing amazing things out there. But I think when you start out, the beauty of art is that it's just you and whatever you wish to create. So, for example, I was just out there looking at all the amazing pieces of art that are created by PWDs as well. There's literally no right or wrong, like I said. There's no limit. It's just find the right material, express yourself, and then you never know where it can go. Like I was seeing some art with pebbles. I can imagine. You're in a place. There's no access to paper. You have pebbles to work with. Okay, create. It just takes a little imagination. So I really feel the beauty of art in that way is that you're coming from your own personal experience, your own, personal journey, and the way you can express that and showcase it and share it with others. It may be beauty, it may be pain, it may be your hardships. The beauty of art is to be received. So I feel, that's basically. I think what we're here today also is to celebrate the capabilities and the abilities of PWDs and to celebrate inclusivity. And I think art is one of the mediums that can really kind of celebrate that for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because we are here in this, shall we say this forum, more or less, and we are here for a purpose, and that is to bring inclusivity, right? So, because if you really think about how art is, art is one of those things where it does have a different perspective, right? And it's on the art outside. It doesn't take too much, it doesn't take that, an only able person, but even a person with disability can also do it. So how do you, in this experience that you have gone here, and you must have met a lot of people as well, right? What kind of horizon has opened your mind, what kind of perspective have you seen through your exposure here? Because I have always noticed that, like I said, we talked about it earlier in the previous episode also, and the previous, when the panels were there, is that stigma, right, of saying, oh, they cannot do anything, But then, if you think about it, they can do many things, but just that we have to look from a different angle. So can you tell me about a bit of how that exposure and came here and seeing such kind of art, did it intrigue you in some way or the other?
I want to say one thing. This is, I think, points back to what Pankaj was saying earlier. We talk about the difference between being able and differently able, and for us to celebrate the word differently, right? Especially in art, you bring in that perspective that's uniquely your own. No one else can sort of have that same experience. I want to point out that there's a lot more you can do. I feel like there's a lot more you can push. For example, I was just going through videos on YouTube. There's an artist who's colorblind, and all they can see is the color red. They can notice on a palette, right? So you can imagine that's something of a hindrance to that person from a normal person's perspective. But the artworks that they create becomes their own style because everything is in red, everything is this visual of just, that really strong color, red. And it really speaks to that person's journey. So I feel like it becomes their own unique style, it becomes who that person is, right? And here we don't have to, with the art, right, we don't have to compete, let's say you're a PWD, you don't have to compete with the skills that someone who's, normal, so to say, has. You can create your own style, create your own avenues, create your own language, so it's really in how you kind of take that further. For example, let me just take another thing, like since the panelists earlier were mostly men, so let me bring in a female perspective. The ginseng, for example, right? The ginseng, what we know it is a simple material that's worn by every woman, right? What if you customize it for a person, a PWD person, right? How will they experience? And me as not having that kind of perspective, I would never be able to really cater to that segment, right? This is also because I come from the design background, so this kind of plays on it. But imagine if you as a PWD person, you understand the day-to-day struggles with how do you put on a ginseng, or how do you, someone who, let's say, who's a little more tongue, but on so let's say you have those kind of issues. Imagine what you could do with just that idea. It becomes a business idea, it becomes something you can take, right? You scale it. And it's not just people who are PWDs who will be able to use it. Imagine your old age and your grandma. But I've heard of women who stitch up the two sides of the ginseng just so they could wear it. And then the blouse, right, it becomes this whole mono piece kind of thing. So those kind of ideas would only come from you. Like we cannot dream up these ideas because we don't experience them from day to day. So think about those kind of things. Like I was also looking at concerts abroad, right? All the concerts have sign language interpreter. What if Cherry Blossom had a sign language interpreter, right? What if your literary fest? What if all these things? The avenues where you show up, you make your presence known, and that's really where you can bring in the change, right? Like even we take notice. So I think there's really that perspective, that spark, right? Like Bhavani was saying, like you just go, you do it, you bring in the idea, the facilitators will be there, right? And we were also talking about the power of media. Like I'm sure through your podcast as well, you've been able to strike up so many different conversations with so many different people. So even through media, right, you have the phone. The phone is catered to PWDs as well. Accessibility, you can change up the colors if you have problems. You can have the screen reader. You have so many things with the phone. I think just yesterday, Amazon Pay had amped up their app so that it'll be easier for PWDs. So the world has taken notice. It's just that maybe our state or maybe the place we're still limited by our minds, we're limited by our ideas. But there's a whole range of possibilities, whether you take tech or what you can create with your hands, what you can dream up. There's really no difference.
I totally agree. I think we need to, like you said, there's so many different avenues that are coming up. Art is not just limited to drawing, right? Because I've noticed that so many times. You say, oh, you're artistic guys, we know how to draw, right? More or less. But now art has taken a very new level. The AI now coming into the scene, right? So, have you ever noticed that also when you try to understand art, it really takes, especially since we're here with everyone who's more PWDs and people who are not PWDs, right? So what I'm trying to say is that art is such a universal language that everyone can go to. So with your experience, with your art, how have you touched the people's life in your life as well? Like when they see, even most people who don't know you, when they see your art, they can understand okay, you can also interpret your emotions, you can also show that what your intentions with that art, So can you speak a bit about that if you know?
Sure. So a great question, by the way. So how I started my art also, I would say I'm a little also weird in that sense because I started painting on tea bags, I think back in 2017. I was living in the city, I was feeling very homesick, and there was really no one to talk to. So at that stage, words are not my best tool, right? What else do I have in my skill set? What else can I use? So I love tea. That's the thing about it. I love a good cup of tea, and I would start painting on the tea bags as canvases because I thought the material was really interesting. It's just a case of observing what was there in front of me and just using what I had. So I started back in 2017, and what I usually paint is just scenes of Khasi scenes, anything related to roots, things with women, things I grew up hearing from my grandma. Very, very sort of everyday things that people sometimes overlook. And I think it was only during the pandemic that it sort of struck a chord with more people because in that state, everyone was kind of, it was a hard time mentally for everybody, regardless of where you were, it was a very, very hard time. So that medium kind of spoke to a lot more people, and I think it became sort of a therapy for me personally, but I think it also became something that other people would look forward to, sharing it, and it sort of has become a community now. So I share it on this page called Canva Canvas. So it's really, really evolving, and every year I try to just take more time to kind of share more on that. So that's really how my art journey has begun, and I think I'm still figuring things out. It's still something that I wish I had more time for, and I seriously use it as a way to de-stress. Seriously use it as a way to kind of sit back and just really reflect on things. So that's really what I still aim to pursue with that, the artistic expression.
Good point you said is that about understanding. Letting out your emotions or art, right? Because if you look at mental illness as well, it's such a trending topic, shall we say. Even a Tom, Dick and Harry, just because you had a bad day doesn't mean you have mental illness for your information, okay? So mental illness is kind of like a thing that goes way beyond that. So just like Babani said earlier, you were saying that about some people, they are very suicidal in their thoughts as well. Especially talking about PWDs, just imagine every day of their lives that they are getting judged. It's not a matter of joke, and that's why we had someone to explain everything in detail, right? So, do you think it's kind of like a therapy to have art as a part of your, part of your day-to-day life?
100%. I believe even now we're considering art as therapy as a subject. So if you're really not feeling that well, you can take it up as a subject. So it's amazing. Like he was saying, now is the golden era where there's so many opportunities, and I think it's also because the way we think now has totally evolved. Like we said, also the media has a part to play in it. I feel like now, even if you're a youngster, even if you're an adult, we have to accept that these new ideas, we have to accept that the world is changing and we can't just keep thinking, the old way. So art is therapy. I feel it's one of the key things that is really coming up now, where you just open a warehouse, just let people paint, splash some paint on a wall or something, it's totally like be free. That's really, if we had one in Shillong, if anybody wants to set up something like that, I'm pretty sure it would go off really, really well.
I wish, I hope that one day there'll be a place where everyone can express themselves for who they are, right? Especially when it comes to art. Because art transcends boundaries, right? And one thing is that I've noticed that most of my life, as I have gone through, I feel like the subject art has not been catered too much to the PWDs, like in formal education, I would say. And you coming from, I am Mumbai, right? IIT, my apologies. See, I'm so bad with academics, so please don't like. But how has it been after knowing people, and you even won the contest for I think it would be hemp contest, Shakespeare, and you won. So after winning that contest, did it give you a different, when you go back, that exposure that says that probably I think it's time for formal education to start giving avenues when it comes to artistry. especially to PWDs, right? So I think being IIT, there's so many open-minded people in a place like Mumbai, right? So can you explain about that?
Sure. So interestingly enough, I was really stoked to be called here today because I feel like parts of my journey as well have come full circle. So let me explain a little bit.
Okay.
When I was in Mumbai, I was part of the IDC School of Design. It's a department within the institution. And I had two batchmates who were hearing impaired. And this one guy was so cool. He didn't care about anybody's opinion. He would always do his own thing, and he had a hearing aid. So whenever the profs would come lectures, and we have some really boring profs, he just switch off his hearing aid and sit in class. And we would be so jealous of just the ability to do that. But they were really interesting to be around because you would think like we were talking about some people asking for cookie or things like that. But no, they were really headstrong individuals, even with that, being a PWD. But it got me thinking that even at that institution level, there's a space for people with disabilities. And a lot of times, I think it's something to do with family, maybe it's something to do with the household, where we're not accepting of giving people an opportunity to experience centers of learning like this. But thankfully, we have a lot of places in India. The minute you're a PWD, you have a place there, you're given access. So this particular batchmate of mine as well, I remember he had a project, and his project was to show something visually, right? Communicate something. So his project was to show how his mom had raised him, what were the challenges of his mother raising him with his disability. And he communicated that to people, and the minute you do that, you kind of create awareness for something. And I think that was the power he had with what he was given there. And it was a really, very, moving kind of experience as well for someone who was just a spectator to that as well. So they were there, and I remember, there was a place near our institute as well. Very popular place, eating place. It was called Madeira and Mine. Great food, amazing service, and it was run by hearing impaired waiters, so staff. I don't know about the cooks. I bet the cooks were also pretty great, but the staff and all the menus had sign language. The minute you enter, every table has a menu. Every table has an explanation of how you can greet the staff. And how you can make your order. So if you want this, you make this, you want this. And, that becomes an experience, right, for someone who's outside of that environment. And we were IITs, right? You think like, okay, IIT is so big, hi-fi and all of that. But then we're like, okay, we're the ones who are not able to communicate in this language. Because when you're there, you have to order with the sign language. And it was amazing. So very humbling to kind of be in that seat, and kind of experience that. So they were, I think that was a very, that struck a chord with me, like I said, that experience. And to this day, I feel like even in Shillong, let's say we have a general store that's run by, and we set up something like that, set up the menu in a way that you can, other people come in and you have to use sign language kind of. I feel like these experiential things are still lacking here. You can bring in these ideas. It just takes a little bit, right? It's a business idea. Open it up, the Jaga stall become the first Jaga stall in Meghalaya, maybe Shillong, that has sign language interpreters, that has sign language servers, and slap on the curtains, the signature curtains that you have at the entrance, slap on a signboard. And I feel like that right there is a fantastic enterprise. So things like that. You were saying also with the department, I remember back in 2020, I had designed the logo they had set out a competition to design the logo for the Office of the Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, and straight I had won. That was also
Congratulations.
But that was the first time where I actually got to combine my design skills with trying to research what is the lingo of persons with disabilities, what exactly is this subject about, and kind of bring back those two things, So that was the first time where I actually kind of delved deep into researching, into understanding what this field is about, how it's perceived, how should I bring this about in a design that will be perceived equally by everybody. So I feel like everything has accumulated to this one moment here today, full circle moment, and I'm excited. I hope people kind of change their mindsets. We all need to change their mindsets and look out. We can't be stuck with our own kind of community is a beautiful thing, but it's very hard to change. Mindset is very, very hard to change, especially for close-knit communities like ours. But we have to work together. We have to bring in that change together. I think.
I mean, like you said, the main thing about the PWDs and the non-PWDs, right? It's like it has that kind of like kind of segregation or something that you can't connect. But I think art is one of the things that have and still is a communicator here and there. Right? You said in the restaurant, they immediately have to do a sign language to talk, to order, and that's something that I think really need to work on communication. And shout out to you, Gordon, we're talking about the communication point of view, right? So, I mean, if you really look at nowadays, we don't talk to each other anymore. We don't talk to each other anymore. Why? Because if you just look at us also, we don't talk to anyone. It's all through mobile phones now, right? But don't you think that art is kind of a way to communicate to a person as well? Like, don't you think? Because nowadays you look at any cafe you go to, no one talks to anyone. I remember this example I over-saturated it, okay? So, there was once I was going to one of the cafes, I won't mention which cafe, it's very nice, okay. So it was there, they were having this couple, okay? So like this boyfriend and girlfriend went there, and so they ordered their food, and both of them they look at their phones and they're eating at the same time. I don't know how they do that as an okay.
It's a bit of bad day.
Probably, yeah. I think the guy must be, in his texting skills, has lots of residue, you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is it communication very, very important, whether it's PWD or not PWD,
I think regardless, like you said, for everybody, sharing is important. I feel like sometimes we beat ourselves down, we become our own worst critics, especially if you feel isolated, and you can feel so isolated in today's age where there's so much tech and there's so much that's supposed to be connecting everybody, but at the same time it's isolating people more and more and more. And I feel like for the youth especially, it's really hard, it's really tough. And I feel like we need to be kind to ourselves, we need to talk to people, we need to share, it needs to be, that's why we need more spaces where we're able to share, like your podcast. And like an event like today, right, where we empower each other, we talk to each other. I think even Benny was saying like you have to move that stone, right? You have challenges, you have phases where you really will beat yourself down when you can't achieve what you're trying to achieve. But you have to push that boulder up the hill, so to say, right? But I like to also think of it, coming to the spirit of community, coming to the spirit of conversing with others, being social. We need to push it up together. So the moment you get a collaboration happening. I believe even he has a team of 12. It's not easy to do things alone. It's not easy, especially in Shillong. Like from personal experience as well, starting my business. It's really not easy when you're alone, but we have that power of community and connect. We're lucky to be here. People from the West, people from outside, they're studying how we live. They're studying how well we have our tribes, we have our clans. Where people are looking at us, people outside are looking at us and they're trying to learn like, hey, what is the secret they have? And we are busy trying to become something else. We're not able to appreciate that, hey, this is our strength, so we need to tap into our strength, tap into our community. We have a department here today that's about, conversation needs to keep continuing and also action along with it. So,
I agree with that because I've noticed that most of the time, you ideas and innovations and all this doesn't happen. It can happen through the end, obviously. But then it doesn't just happen like that. It's like you have to have a personal conversation. Have you noticed that most of the time when you have like a need to show an idea, show an idea, you have to be physically there, right? Because you cannot talk to a person via a screen nowadays. If you talk to a person, and with all due respect, long distance relationship, most time why you don't work? Because you're walking through the phone, right? So what I'm trying to say, I didn't disrespect anyone. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay? But most of the time, it happens that communication when you're physically there. I mean, you said having a community is so important. Like to share ideas, right? So let me ask you, like sometimes do you feel that it's important that we need to bring together all people together and talk about innovative ideas? Coming from an art background, which I'll be talking later about how computers can work and how AI can do it. But what do you think by having a community where art plays a very important role? I think that's very, and it's inclusive for everyone, I guess.
I feel especially for our culture because we have so many different traditional crafts. We have so much music in us, right? So it's really embedded already in our blood, right? You have to consider that. Let's say Kautham village, for example. It's a very artistic environment, right? How did they come to that point where they don't use words but they whistle or they sung tunes? Even if you find people in the paddy fields, where they don't have, right? They have tunes, right? To work together, get the beat. Like I'm sure now, we have so many people play a lot more Western music or something, their own version of that, right? But music has frequency, and frequency kind of builds that. So I feel like we already have it embedded in us. It's just a matter of tapping into that. Our weaving skills, our bamboo skills, and so on and so forth. It's just a matter of kind of tapping into those things, recognizing things in each other. I think sometimes if you're working alone, you kind of doubt yourself a lot more. Especially if you're an artist. You are so hard on yourself and it gets stuck in the mind. I feel, if anyone can resonate with this. Especially if you're a humble artist, it's very hard. You need to get that external push from someone, and it takes someone else to kind of push you towards it. I'm sure everyone can relate to a point in time where you just can't do it, but some word of encouragement from somebody just takes one person to kind of push you towards it. So I feel like, we can tap into so much more, with our skills that we can bring individually, skills that our culture has already embedded within us. It's just the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. And have you noticed that anything relating to creativity has always been like the biggest critic will always be you. Even like you get validation from anyone. The best art, you have when it comes to fitness as well, if you have the best physique, you have the best physique, you'll be like, do I have the best physique? Like, have you ever been hard on yourself? Like, especially like, since we're talking about today, right? How can you get away from that being too hard on yourself sometimes? You need to give a little bit of rest sometimes, I believe.
I think you just do it. You just do it. I'm so happy to see people selling their art. We can be so hard on ourselves. We think, okay, no one's going to value it. There are people here who are selling. I got a really, really nice diary that's been nicely done, quality paper. I can see so many other quality products here, and I'm so happy that they're selling it, because the primary problem with a lot of creatives, art or design, is that we don't know how to price our work. We don't know what the value of our work. You put in hours of it, and then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, maybe I'll just give it away for free, or at least this person has appreciated it. No. I feel like you demand the value that you put into that thing, and you have the skill, you're showing up, you're doing it, and I feel like those artists, whoever they may be, doing the cards, doing all the different items out there, they should be really proud that they're demanding value for their work, because it's not easy for anyone, regardless PWD or not. It's not easy for a creative, especially, to demand value.
Yeah, I think that you brought a very, very good point there, because sometimes you tend to, being a good person yourself, right? And for everyone out here as well. I think you tend to, if you're being a good, it's like, okay, like, I can give for free, it's no problem. But we have worked hard on that. You create a song, or you wrote a poem, or you drew something. I think no person will have the right to say, I can take that for free,
Right.
So that is something that I really do agree. Because the value that you give, your hard work and effort, it's not a matter of joke to draw the whole thing or to make a certain thing that is of your own creation. It takes a lot of time. And most people expect that, so it's free, so since you're my cousin, I can take it for free,
Oh, right. Relative card.
Yeah, the relative card. Like, hey, I'm your cousin brother, so you have to. Yeah, no. Exactly. I think coming back, to even when it comes to music, as well, you notice that, I think, like, okay, you're having a concert, so give me free tickets, right? It's like, that is like taking advantage to some extent, And that's a very, very sad thing to see, especially I had a guy named Langsam, I don't know if you know him, he plays on so many bands. He was saying that, some people after having, everything set up, they would just come to him, give me free tickets. We worked hard for this, So I think that is a very, very good point. I think for PWDs, you should never take advantage of you, especially when it comes to, your hard work and dedication, So yeah, it's a good segue actually. From asking, as with the coming of technology, you even work in yourself. I think you have your own house as well. You design stuff now. So take me through a bit, like, how does computer link in with art? Because nowadays if you look at everything, you write a couple of words, it generates you a picture, right? So how has art transcended out of a piece of paper to now computer? Has it changed, or is it still now? Like, do you feel that's real art?
That's a really, really tough question. I feel also it depends a lot on the audience. So let's say people here, the way they perceive art is still very much on a tangible aspect. We still don't have experiential art museums or anything like that. We still, I think our understanding still needs to reach a certain level. But for the outside world, it's a totally different ballgame. You have amphitheaters, you have full kind of screens that are projecting art, that are making you feel, experience art. You may have a room that's just full of wool or something, and you dive in, that's art, So I feel like it's a totally different. We're not even there with the tech yet, I feel, just speaking here and in the art. But with the introduction of AI and all of that, I can only say, following from what I know, they never expected AI to come for the creative at the beginning. They always thought it would be more analytical, it would be solving mathematical problems in the first instance itself. But it actually is doing creative jobs much better. It's actually, as a designer, am I concerned that AI will take my job? I think I might be a little bit. But it's like a tool, right?
Yeah.
At least now, it's still a phase where it's a tool. Like back then, we didn't have software, so we designed a certain way. We do drawings manually, do things manually. And then when Photoshop came in, when tools started coming in, design software, you adapt. So I think we still have to adapt now. Now that AI is here, we still have to be ahead of the curve and adapt and play along with it. I think that's kind of the trajectory where a lot of creators are doing. So if you're into design software, you're into Photoshop, Illustrator, into all of those things, you kind of have to integrate AI into your process to survive. It's kind of coming to that phase. But it's accelerating very, very fast, and even I can't say for sure what's going to happen next. I think even the experts can't say for sure, what's going to happen next. So it's a really interesting dynamic. It's a really interesting place that we're in our point of time as a civilization.
Yeah.
It's scary, but at the same time it's exciting. It can go either which way. It's not crazy.
I can agree with the amount of we don't know where we're going right now, because we're going in that transitional phase. I know that the transition phase for me was when Facebook came to the scene. I was in my class, I think my bachelor's that time, and the whole thing of that Facebook game was so like in the loop kind of thing. We don't even know what's going on, and then when it comes to meeting people or even dating, quote unquote, it became so like revolutionary, nowadays. Right?
So weird.
Yeah, so weird. And I think art is going the other side as well. So anyway, let me ask you this thing is like, what is your like thought process when it comes to creating a certain kind of art, right? I know, it's easy. So you go through things and emotionally you feel, okay, you have emotional trigger and you say, okay, I'm going to draw. But take like step by step, if even people who are listening right now and even everyone in the audience can take note and can even apply that, because you're not just a person who draws, and you even have credentials for that. So tell me just a bit of like, how do you take that first step or that curiosity, that spark to that, to go step by step to the finished production, you say?
So I like to think of myself as switching between two personas. So one is artist, one is designer. And there are two different approaches that you to understand. As an artist, it's a lot about the self projecting out. And as a designer, it's a lot about what you observe and then how you take that in and produce something. So let me explain with an example. If I were tapping into the artist persona, I would think, what is it I feel today? What is it I want to express? What is it that's coming to my mind? What is it I have around me that I can use, So if I have the tea bags, I have something like, I feel like I want to be earthed, I want to be balanced. I'll choose a color palette, let's say colors that are earthy, that go with the tea bag. I'm very particular about what state of mind I'm in. So it's a lot of the self coming out. It's a lot of just me, and I put that out into the world. People cannot say it's bad, because I am the only one who can judge it and say if it's good or bad, through my lens, right? The only good thing that comes out when you share with others is they can interpret it in a very different way, and that's the joy you get out of sharing it. Now, if I was a designer, I come here today, I'm like, okay, what do people need? What is the problem that I need to solve? Because being a designer is, you have set goals. I work in industrial design, which is primarily product design. So if I were to create a product, back in college, in fact, we worked with this National Association of the Blind. So that was in Mumbai. And our task was to design a product for them to be able to identify currency. Because the Indian currency is so bad, you cannot distinguish between one note and the other. If you go to other countries, the size differences are much, much more varied. So you can tell what is a, let's say, 10 rupee note or something like that. You can tell in other countries, Scandinavian countries are doing a very good job. The Indian currency is not like that. Ever since demonetization as well, it's become even more messed up. And apparently you have those symbols in the note that's supposed to be textured, and you can tell which note is which. Note the National Association of the Blind, the students there said, oh, we can't tell which one is which. So we were trying to develop very simple products for them. So we were divided into groups, each team kind of had a different direction. So we went with something that was very basic. It's almost like a stencil. So you have a stencil, and we did these exercises where we kind of blindfolded each other and tried to feel the notes, test our design. So in design, you have to test. You have to go to the person to test. If I were to design a product for PWD, if I just don't test it with a PWD, that product will not be accepted by anybody because it has to meet certain criteria. So I need to come to you, I need to test it with you and get your feedback and then redesign it if I need to, because with art you just do something, put it out, call it anything. But with design, you come back and we call it an iterative process because you just go out there and change it if necessary. So we had that was also another full circle moment again. So one of our team members, I think another team tried to work with tech. So something of, you put in the note and it's supposed to give you feedback through sound. So that was also another interesting thing. And then we got to see some of the tools that we were already using. So a lot of times in design you find, okay, I've come up with this idea and it's so new, but then in the minute you Google or Pinterest, you find someone has already done it. What? Coming from our culture, coming from a small place like this, you can embed certain things, further into it that differentiate it from anything else in the market. So that's why I'm saying, we're empowered with so much. You just need to connect things together. Design is all about observing. You take things from here, take things from there, connect it, what can it become? So it's really that's the process. And I would specifically say, if you're an artist, you think this way. If you're a designer, you think this way.
Yeah, like that's so true, because the mindset of how to create art is such a thing where I feel it's it's very thought-provoking, but you have to be there in mindset, right? So yeah, just to end this this intriguing conversation that we're having about art, because am I an artist? I don't know. Okay.
You are a conversation is art. It's an art. You can't strike up conversation so easily with someone, a stranger.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Very qualified art. Validation. Okay. I'm officially an artist now. Anyway, so I think the last thing I want to ask you is that what is the, because I even asked the panelists earlier, it's like, what are you going to give, maybe, after everything is said and done, what you have achieved, what are you going to give back to society? Like, what is like giving back, right? That's one of the main things you're going to make an impact. So, what are the things that you're going to, like, if everything you have achieved in life, what is the thing that you're going to give back so that you want to make an impact on?
I think, like I said in the beginning, I'm very lucky to be in this creative space that's all about collaboration. There's rarely a project that I work on that involves just me. It's involving a lot of other stakeholders, it's involving a lot of other points of view, So that's what I'm doing it today. I hope long term it becomes even more in depth where I can just give back to someone through my work. I feel that's the cherry on the cake for me. If I wake up, I feel like I can contribute to someone's work, I can, lift them up through what I'm doing, I can lift somebody up. I think there's no other kind of reward. So I feel, I definitely have a long way to go, but I hope, if I look back and somewhere down the line, that's definitely good.
Yeah. So I think since everything good must come to an end, I guess. So why don't you give maybe kind of like what do you want to say to the audience, especially to the audience as well, the live audience as well as people who are watching this? Say something you have in mind, at least will give them the courage to take that first step off. Since we're here today, we'll take first steps, right? So just give anything that's a quick shout out to your mom and dad as well, probably that'll be a good time.
So I would say we're celebrating abilities today. I think with that different ability that you have, because I feel like it's something that you can bring, something so new that's unique to you. So think differently, think out of the box, celebrate your ability.
Anyway, so I think that's it for today. I guess like I said, everything good. I think amazing was come to an end. So anyway guys, today is such a conversation that I think probably for all those art enthusiasts probably must be riding your head now, must be going back to your canvas, going back to the drawing board and making something good. So that's very, very important. And this today, by the way guys, I would say, since I want to conclude today, and thanks for the word of encouragement, thank you for having the time, and actually thank you for giving us this platform, because this is one thing that we have broken the boundaries when it comes to podcasting. So that's, I would say thank you to everyone who's here, especially in this forum, so especially for the Fest. I want to say thank you so much for everyone, thank you for watching, and yes, everything, if you want to know more about this, everything in the description down below. So like I always say, every time in our podcast is that grab your favorite beverage, and also remember, have conversations. Until next time, have a great evening ahead.